All right, welcome everybody to the Alive with Courage podcast. I'm super pumped to have Patrick Hardy here. Patrick is a new friend of mine and someone who I'm just getting to know. But just hearing your story, the years of pastoral ministry in the marketplace with your branding and marketing offering, and just the business prowess that you've had over the years, and now really just stepping out into a new adventure, which we're going to get into today. I wanted to capture this moment, capture this unique moment where you've said yes to something big and unknown, and really dig in and open the hood, because there's a lot of men that are hearing the call and maybe pushing it away, or wanting to hear the call and step in a more committed way. And so I'm really excited to just get under the hood of your life, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah,
It's be fun.
great. Love it. Well, yeah, you've shared a little bit about your story, but I'd love for you to just to kind of help us understand some of the origin story and some of the moments that really sort of shaped who you are, what's coming right now into this new season. Yeah, I'd love to hear.
So I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I grew up in a Catholic church where I honestly, like, Jesus was on the wall. Like, there was the statue up there, but we never really talked about that.
Yeah.
And then my friends invited me to a Presbyterian youth group, and their look on who Jesus was a friend. And so I was able to, at an early age, realize that he wasn't just far away where we couldn't, connect with him, but we were actually able to connect with him one-on-one as a friend. And that kind of got me on a journey of, like, who is God and who is God in my life, and, that kind of thing. I led worship because that was part of what I did, was music and stuff. And so in those groups, we did that. And then fast forward to high school, where I actually started to give my life to Christ. I was at a Young Life retreat in the middle of the camp. We all sat on the field, and that's where I asked Jesus to take the wheel of my life, which actually during that time, that song was very popular, Jesus Take the Wheel. What literally was this idea of, like, us in the seat, the driver's seat, and Jesus is in the passenger seat, and he's asking us to give him that space in our life. And from that moment is where I realized, like, I want everybody to understand this. And I was about, say, 17, 18 years old, and I realized that this is the call of my life, that everybody would know God, or have a chance to know who he is, before they make the mistakes they make. So that led me into wanting to do youth ministry, and that actually was not what I wanted to do. I realized that I'm not that charismatic, excited leader that the youth ministry leaders usually are. I'm more of a one-on-one, let's get to know who God is in your life, your identity, like, spend time pouring into you type of leader. So when I went through the youth leader part, I immediately pivoted to, actually, I just want to do ministry in general. So I moved to California through another long conversation, but got to California, and my wife and I helped plant a young adults movement that was coming out of a bigger church. And it was a small group of about 100 or so, which is not really that small, but we believed that God was asking us as a group to plant a church. So through a lot of prayer and understanding, 12 of us sat in a room and said, we are giving ourselves to this movement. And because of that, God did some amazing things with that church. We moved from a small 150 or so to about 400 or 500, and now it still continues today. But during that time, and this is the exciting part for me personally, is where I started to use all of the different skills and abilities that I have. So a creative part of me, the musical part of me, the strategy leadership part of me, it was really we called it an incubator. It was like, if you had a skill or ability, like, let's work on how do we make that happen in this space, in a safe place where we can, create opportunities for you to do the thing that you love to do. And so for me, that's where I tell people, is like, I've done literally every role in a church except for preach, because I just didn't want to be that guy that stands up for 20 minutes and speak out a message. I'm more, like I said, hands-on. But I was able to do certain things, and I led in certain ways throughout my whole ministry career and ministry life. So then I came to a point at that church where I was kind of tapped out on what I could do. And so my next step was to go and get more schooling. I didn't want to be Like, I didn't want to get my master's in divinity, but I just wanted some more teaching and more some kind of leadership. So that's where Hillsong came in. My wife and I moved to Hillsong with 2 kids, young kids, for a year. And we spent a year out there just learning more about leadership. And I love the idea of Hillsong because it was a structured church that was, had been doing things for years. And what I had seen, at least on the outside, was that it was very creative and very exciting and well-oiled machine, sort of, so to speak. So my whole goal literally was to go out there, grab as much knowledge as I could, and bring it back to our church, or a church in general. And so we did. We went out for a year, and the craziest part about it, though, is that God had other plans. God had other plans. Like, I wanted to be a worship leader. I wanted to lead worship for thousands of people. And when I got there, I realized, like, that's not what I want. Like, I don't want to stand on stage and lead people into worship. What I wanted to do was sit in rooms like this and lead people into a relationship with Jesus, learn their identity, really grow who they are so that they maybe can go and lead worship to thousands of people, or, preach or teach or whatever, even go to their offices and, bring that into their world. But yeah, God spoke to me and said, you're a David. You're a person who's a leader, who's going to lead multiple people, but in the sense of helping them to figure out who what their identity is. So it was a really powerful moment, but I came back and basically shared that with the church that I was a part of, and was able to continue to offer certain things like that. We went one more pivot, I guess. We moved to Texas, and we're at another church out there called Fellowship Church. And again, big church, creative church. They really had that sense of creativity and also that well-oiled machine type of environment. And through that process, again, I just was picking up more and more. I didn't know it until now, but like, I was literally grabbing arrows and putting them in my quiver for later. Not just like good things, but also hurt. A lot of things that I was learning about people, and learning about ministry, and learning about leadership. It was all for the moments that we're in now. But God did some amazing things out there, but then moved us back to California, which is where we want to be. We want to be here for the long haul. Love it. The weather's great. People are great.
Coffee's great.
Coffee's so good. But because of our relationship with Hillsong, we ended up moving to LA to help plant Hillsong LA. Yeah. Same thing. Like, I just raised my hand and basically did whatever I could do. I was helping with the sound, helping with the media, helping with worship, just wherever I needed to be, volunteer leadership, things like that, small groups. So in a nutshell, what I would say is, like, my ministry background is kind of wherever I'm needed, wherever my wife is needed, we go. And it's a testament to where we are today too. But the latest ministry opportunity that I've had was down here in Orange County, had a Watermark, which is now Generations. And that was a funny story because, honestly, like, because we were part of Hillsong, it was a bigger church. We knew as our family was growing, we wanted to find a smaller community where we can be effective for the long haul, that our kids can be grown and poured into as a community. So I wasn't even looking for a job, but I was looking for a church at that point. And we showed up, and basically the pastor, Bucky, introduced me to his son-in-law, Ben. And Ben and I sat down and had coffee. I told him similar thing. This is what I've done for my career in ministry, and we're kind of just looking for a church. And it turned into a conversation of like, hey, we could use you right now. And again, me being the loyal, guy that steps up, says, absolutely, I'll help you. So it was really ideally, or it was started out as, we want to help bring together, reignite this young adults movement. And that spoke to my heart, because again, the young leadership and the young people that really need a place. And that's all we did, was we created that space. It was a moment where we needed to create some healthy community in our church, in the young adults. And my wife and I did lead like Bible studies and things like that, but really we just created a space for them to meet together. And then pandemic hit, and my other side, which was the career or the marketing and strategy side, the video, photography, social media, all that stuff kind of took over. And so I became less of a young adults pastor. I moved away from that to full-on communications. And yeah, so that was kind of the end of it. Like after pandemic, I kind of got to a point where I burned out as far as my leadership abilities and things, and just needed a break. And so that's kind of the full circle of where I've been in ministry, and probably more in there. But yeah. That's just give you a general idea.
This while you were explaining all that, I was thinking, you said the word identity like 4 or 5 times, and so I want to really circle back to that, because even to that moment where you're like, I want Jesus to sit in the driver's seat of this car. There were some things that happened to you really early on formationally that seemed to really set you up to be able to go, yeah, we'll go there. Yeah, we'll go there. Like, I hear the call here, I'm going there. Right. Like I'd love to just double click into that world, because I'm a huge, identity's been speaking to me for the last 3 or 4 years and really changing my life a lot too. Just when you start really realizing who you are, what God calls you, how he wants to use you in his larger story. I'd just be curious to hear what was that marking? How would you describe that marking? Or even what, if you were even to just describe the identity that you've been given, like how would you describe it?
So I think there's a couple things there. One thing I really would recommend is just taking some of those tests. I mean, at first I was like, taking a test, this is like school, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
But like leadership abilities, skills and tests, spiritual gifting tests, all those things, because what it does is it gives you the tools. So it helps you with that, figuring out your identity. So obviously you want to sit with God and you want to ask him, what's my identity? Who am I? What am I supposed to be doing? My purpose. But if you have those tools, you're able to look at it and go, oh, okay, well, God's saying this, and this is what it's saying, that, it lines up. Yeah. And I think that just gives you encouragement and courage. But once you find out that person that you're supposed to be, or that identity that that God's created you to be, start walking in it. That I don't know how.
But before you get there, just curious, like if I like pulled up the like Patrick Hardy website and the identity statements like right there on the front landing page, like is it codified in like a name or a sentence, or how would you describe what that statement is for you?
Yeah, for me, it's pastor.
Yeah.
Every one of those jobs that I talked about in the church, I didn't talk about the other side of it, where it was the marketing and the sitting in agencies and things like that. But the through line for all that is pastoral. It's helping people. Honestly, I'd be sitting next to somebody at an agency and thinking more about their life, because I know they're going through a divorce, or their kids are struggling or whatever, and my heart burns for that person, and I actually take the time to sit down and ask them how they're doing. Hey, can I pray for you? Because it's like, in that moment, it's more about that person than the work we're doing. And that's always been my thing. Sometimes it gets me in trouble because, you got to do the work too.
Yeah.
But I think, like pastoral leadership or heart for people, I think is what it would say is my identity.
That's crazy. So God like looks at your life and he's like, I call you pastor, I call you shepherd, like I call you. Yeah. Like
friend.
Yeah. Dang. And it sounds like you got to experience that as well. Like when Jesus went from like a wall hanger to like an actual road trip buddy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Which is an informal way of just being like, yeah, no, he's actually so close, so pastoral, so shepherding to me.
Yeah.
Like as we drive this journey of life.
And the crazy thing about that, Jesus on the wall versus in the seat of the car, there's like a full circle moment for me where once I accepted Jesus and let him take the wheel of my life, I started to see different things in the Catholic Church, because my mom was continuing to go to Catholic Church, and she would always invite us and drag us sometimes to come in. But when I started to actually go on purpose and actually accept the fact that I wanted to be there, that's a very different from like being dragged at a young age to now I'm deciding to come.
Yeah.
I started to see the reality of what was actually going on. So all of those rituals and things like that, there's a purpose for all those things. And I think it's so beautiful to see that. And I think once wrapping it into the identity piece is like, once you start to see your identity, you start to see things differently.
Yeah.
You start to walk differently with confidence, with a new a new understanding of your purpose. And so when you're not questioning, when things come to you and you have a question about should I do this or this, it's like it makes more sense because of your identity.
Yeah.
Yeah, this makes sense. And it doesn't mean you just run and do it. You know, you ask God, you build your community around you, and you ask them
Yeah.
to make sure. But it's like you feel that confidence, that's like, yeah, I feel like this is what God's calling me to do.
Dang. It's funny. I'm in the process of working on my website, like the FAQ, and I have the website. I just need an FAQ and an about me section, and so I've been working on that this week. And then I was just thinking of different like taglines or different things that could be, marquees on my site. But one of them was the question, just, do you know who you are? Which is really speaks to that identity space, because man, when you know who you are and you like that confidence starts to flood in and you go, oh, like I'm not spending all this wasted energy trying to figure out what lane should I be in? Should I be in IT or should I be? And you're like, no, it's pastor. Yeah. And that, man, that changes everything. Cause then like you said, you start seeing life through that lens, and then you start jumping into road trips with Jesus around being a pastor and a shepherd. Right. And you just see the world, and you see where you're needed, where you're not needed, what you can say yes to, what say no to. And
the word keeps going in my head, so we got to talk about it. But the identity thing is powerful, because if you don't know who you are, that's where you struggle.
Yeah.
Because the world will tell you who you are if you ask
quickly. Yeah.
But if you hear from God, I was actually, I've been doing this thing. I shouldn't say it's like a ongoing thing, but I did it once, and I'm hopefully doing it more, where it's like an end of the day thought. And yesterday I didn't record it yet, but my thought was, the world is so loud. Even the preachers, like I'm looking through social media and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and all this. The ones that stand up the most are the ones that yell and loudly scream at you. Even, advertisements and stuff. It's like all of them are so loud. But then I think about the scriptures and I'm like, God's a still small voice. So my thought was like, we're waiting for God to speak to us. A lot of us are asking the questions like, God, I'm here. How can I hear you? Some of us just need to get rid of those distractions. All of the things that people are telling us that we are, we need to just let those go and start to really sit with God, still small voice, and hear his whisper, because he's speaking to us. We might just need to get rid of those things, that are sometimes good, but they're a distraction.
Yeah, totally. I mean, Jamie Winship is a mentor of mine. He wrote that book, Living Fearless, and he's really big on identity, and he invites people to really just notice the identities they're living under. I see myself as the provider. I see myself as the one who has to crush it, or I see myself as the one. And to really just start learning how to be honest of like the belief systems and the identities you're living under. And just as you said, it's like, but then you can take it to the Lord and be like, I'm believing I'm the failure today. Like that's the identity I'm living under. Who do you say that I am? Right. And like learning to listen for that still soft impression or voice, it's so game changing. Cause then it's like, wow, I can actually shift out of that false identity and back into my true identity, where all the confidence, all the power that God's given me is in me, and actually take that step of faith, so it's huge.
Yeah. I was going to say that some people I've talked to, even my daughter who's 16, she's like, I can't hear from God. I haven't been hearing from God. One thing I would say is like, read the scriptures, because he's speaking. He's speaking all the time. You just said, like, finding that still small voice, and sometimes it's like it's not an audible voice, it's coming from the word of God, and his word does not come back void. So it's like, if you're asking those questions, hey God, who am I? Read the scriptures. It tells us exactly who we are. And I think that's the cool thing, is like the confidence that we're building in ourselves is right there in the word of God. It doesn't matter if you're a believer or not. Literally pick up the Bible and it'll tell you who God has created you to be. So
good. Well, I want to shift you. you kind of alluded to this a little bit before we jumped on this podcast, that sometimes there's a dark side to the identity, maybe, or the willingness to just keep saying yes and jumping. And your just story was very much like like, Lord, here I am, I'm willing, let's go, which is so beautiful, such an open heart to just move. And yet throughout that journey, it sounds like God was also teaching you other things too, about how to really wield your identity and how to actually harness, focus, refine it.
Yeah.
I just would love to hear, because I think this is a good launching point, like, to like what you're up to in this next adventure. There was some, you call it burnout, or there's all sorts of things that just you picked up along the way that weren't serving like the core of that identity that you're called to, or learning a different facet of it.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. How would you describe maybe that dark side of your gift set?
Yeah, I think so by saying yes to everything, it ruins the yes. And one thing I said earlier to you is like, we have to learn to say no to things so that we can say yes to other things. I mean, my family is a huge example of that. I remember when we had our son, and he's sitting probably like maybe a couple of weeks old, like super small. I remember looking at my wife and going, man, we're never not going to have anything to do. Like, we're always going to be busy with something. And it was good. It gave us an excuse, because it was like, oh, sorry, we have to be home with the kid.
Yeah.
But it allows us to say the things that we want to say. And for us, it was a major moment in our life where we're like, now we have to say no to some things. We can't say yes to everything. And even though we did bring him along to some of the ministries things that we were doing, we were able to leave early.
Yeah.
We're not tearing down chairs anymore.
Yeah.
Sorry, we got to get home. Wow. Those kind of things where it allowed us to gives us permission.
And how did that feel at first when you're like, oh, we're leaving, we're not tearing down chairs?
It was hard.
Yeah.
It was really hard because, it's a smaller church. But what it did though, and this is something huge that I've learned over my years of ministry, is like, sometimes we can be a bottleneck. We feel like we have to be the one to save everybody and do everything. But there are people waiting for us to get out of the way so that they can do it.
Dang.
And I think, God, man, when we had our first kid, it was like that opening of our realization that, like, look, we don't have to be the only person here. In fact, we can invite people to help. Because look, I have a baby in my hand. Like, I'm putting away chairs. Like, you're just sitting there talking to your friend. Like, come over here and help me.
Yeah. Or if you leave the room,
the
chairs, something's got to do with the chairs, right?
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was huge. Like, just realizing that your yes is super important, but also your no can be really valuable. And even today, I have 4 kids. A lot of times I'll get invited to golf. We haven't talked about that at all, but I'm a huge lover of golf and coffee. But I'll get invited to go play. Actually, fair enough. Like, Saturday, somebody asked me to come golf with them. It's a holiday. It's July 4th. Well, there's a parade in my community, and I have to say no. But I felt good about that no, because I get to hang out with my kids, get to see them excited about being with other people and driving around their bikes in the neighborhood. So it's like, it's not always a bad thing. It can be a really good thing. Yeah. And in ministry, it's definitely needed.
Yeah. What sort of life are you experiencing in the no? Like, how would you describe? Because it's hard to say no. I'm a guy that likes to say yes too. But how would you describe the life that comes in return in the no?
So this was a huge thing for me. After the burnout, after the pandemic, I basically said no to ministry, which was like, after 20 years of ministry, saying no was like really hard.
Yeah.
And it took a while to like actually step away completely. And it's almost like you have to completely do it. You like completely sever yourself from it. But
when you start saying no to things, sometimes you have to be at two ends of the extreme, right? Like, it's like terrible twos. I'm saying no to everything, right? Like, yeah.
But it's like, I think there's also a part where you have to realize your limitations. So for me, again, ministry, I said no to everything. And it actually came back to bite me in a bad way, because you need some balance. But anyway, the point is, after 20 plus years of ministry, I had to say no. And so that the funny thing is, if you're a person who's been in the church and worked in the church, you start to see things, and you start to say like, oh, I can fix that. I can fix that. Or why is that happening? Or, you know, wait, did somebody do that? They forgot to do this. And then you just have to shut your mind off and say, no, 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 I'm just here to receive for this time, because this is what I need. It's that refilling that's going to lead to the place where we're at now, which is now I'm able to give back. So it's a time I think we all need, is to say no to some things, especially, like I said, in the church and ministry, so that you can be refreshed.
Wow.
It could be like literally, if you're working in a church, take 1 week off. Like, just sit in the service and receive from God. It's hard because you feel like, I can fix that sound problem, or I can fix that mistake that's happening on media. I mean, it literally happened the other day. I was like, I know how to fix that. And I sat there and I was like, it's not my job anymore.
Hold.
Yeah.
Receive.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. Well, it's almost like you're saying the more no's you say, the more God's refining and shaping like the tip of the spear for that pastor identity, right? Like it doesn't always mean yes, because that's what dulls the point in a sense, right? And so it's like the shaping of this sharp point. That's just really beautiful. So the way you and I got connected is you reached out and you're like, hey man, I'm jumping out on adventure. Like, there's been some refilling over the last couple of years. The point's getting sharper again. Like, God's giving me a new understanding of pastor, shepherd. And you're like, hey man, there's this organization called Standing Stone. And I'd love for you just to share, like, what is Standing Stone? Like, what's capturing your heart about it? Because you guys are jumping all in. It's really, really inspiring.
Yeah. So Standing Stone Ministry is something I needed, my wife needed, during our ministry time. And what it is like pastors coming alongside of other pastors and leaders in ministry, even missionaries, and just being a friend, being a confidant, somebody that they can talk to, a safe place, a place where nothing is going to be said out of that space. And sometimes it's just like they need to vent or go through something or process, but also because of the years of experience in ministry that we have, we're able to sit down with them and say, man, I understand that. Or I think that, like, this is similar to what I went through, or however it is. But basically it's somebody that understands because I've been there. It's almost like, I was thinking about the other day, it's like almost like when you're running, right? You know the metaphor when you run and you hit the wall. Well, in running, when you hit the wall, you push through that wall and you get to the end, right? Well, what we do is we come to them before they hit the wall, and then when they hit that wall, and say, hey, do you think you should still go? Like, keep going. Because do you want to continue to finish this race, or do you want to continue to finish all the races?
Yeah.
And I think that's the huge piece, is like, we don't even know, because we hit that wall and we're like, man, I feel like I should push forward because I know I can finish this. But then the problem is, the end of that race, you're completely taken out of the game. And that's what we want to help. So Standing Stone is it's fully funded, so we have to raise our own support and build our network, but then we give away the service for free. So it allows pastors to have that opportunity. They don't have to ask the question, well, how much is this going to cost me, and who's going to know about it? They're not going to have to sign something that says I'm seeing a therapist, or things like that. Not that that's bad, but we allow them to basically hold up a mirror to themselves and say, hey, am I okay? Are things, are the things that I need to work on in order to make sure I'm healthy? And then also on the other side, on the dark side of it, is like, they've already gone through the issue, or they're going through the issue, whether it's a blowout or burnout or whatever, and help to restore them back to health.
Wow.
Because, if they're not healthy, then their church isn't healthy, the ministry isn't healthy, the community is being affected by it, and their families as well. So.
Yeah, we talk a lot about leadership on this podcast, and I really want to legitimize the leadership title of a pastor and an executive pastor. It's a missionary. It's insane. Like, I had 3.5 years doing junior high ministry. I was in my young 20s, but it was really probably my first experience with actually being in charge of multiple people, parents, calendars, schedules, teaching, speaking, all the things, you know, so it's a very dynamic role. And it, you know, I would imagine a lot of people get into it based on in a very similar identity call on their life as like, man, I just want to help people. Right. And I feel like you could speak really well to some of the belief systems that are moving through pastoral leaders that aren't serving them, because the temptation is so right there to just say, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. Or this feels actually really good to be, I'm actually getting this speaking thing and I'm getting really good and comfortable and I can see how it moves a room. And I mean, there's a lot of like heartstrings that can get pulled out in that audience based on what a guy's saying from the pulpit. I mean, there's a lot of power offered. There's a lot of like influence that's offered. I mean, it's quite a dynamic position. And I guess I'd just love to hear from you. How would you name some of those belief systems or some of those ways in which pastors are being, I guess, destabilized maybe in the culture, especially here in Orange County where you want to serve?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things I could say about that, but we'll try to focus. I think, like I said earlier, it's like sometimes you could be the bottleneck, where you feel like you're the only one that can do it. And if you're the one that's serving a church and you're pastoring and shepherding some of these people in your church, if you're not taking care of yourself, then who's going to show up if you don't? I think that's the understanding that, like,
so the belief system, sorry to interrupt, but like the belief system is like, I'm the only one that can do it.
Yes.
So that would be like one is like, yeah, I'm the only one that can do it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And what I'm understanding or what I'm believing is that a lot of those pastors and those leaders sometimes will burn themselves out because they feel like if they don't show up, nobody else will.
Yeah.
God's still there.
Yeah. And if we just break some of that down, it's like, I don't trust that others can jump in. There's a belief statement. I don't trust God. It's going to work. I don't trust that God's got this, you know, and I don't think pastors talk about that really openly because it's hard to notice it when you're like, someone's got to do it, you know, and you're sort of running off of belief systems that are really fear-based in a lot of ways. It's like, I'm the only one who can do it. God's not going to figure it out, like this issue. And it's like this slow walk into a corner of isolation, fear, burnout, you know, like, and all of a sudden, like that initial beautiful pastoral call is way over there, and it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, that one thing I was going to say was that being a pastor, being a leader in general is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's going back to the no's and the yeses. You have to say no to a lot to be a solid leader.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to say no, then a lot of times you can get into a place where you're saying yes a lot and it doesn't really mean much because you show up consistently doesn't necessarily mean that you're being as powerful as you feel like you are. Because God calls specific people to leadership, to specifically in the church and ministry, because they know that they're selfless people who are there to serve the people that they're serving.
Yeah.
If you're there to serve yourself, obviously that's going to continue to build your ego. It's going to build this thought pattern of like, I'm the only one that could do this. I'm the one that's building this church. I'm the one, you know, so those kind of I am thoughts come. And I think that's the issue is like, God calls the humble because he knows that he's doing it and they know, the leaders know that he is doing it. Yeah. And you can't do it without a community of people. So I think that's the key is like trying to make sure that you stay humble in the process. And it's hard because some people are very charismatic and they do build churches and they do lead those movements. Yeah. But if they don't step back and say like, who's actually doing this? Yeah. That's where the issues come.
Yeah. And yeah, for me, that's that learning to be honest about what's actually going on inside is what actually helps me return to that initial call, that initial identity, that true identity that God's put on me. Right. And it's like, man, if that honesty can't come out in some way of like, just like, I don't do it, no one else is going to do it. Like, it's all up to me. I mean, those statements that we were talking about, those belief systems, that's in every corporate office as well. That's why companies get stuck at the top, where the leader won't delegate, is afraid of letting others in, you know, and the company gets stifled, their growth gets stifled. There's so much growth that gets stifled when, we start just living out of fear, you know. And,
one of the pastors I worked under, he would say famously that he makes sure that he's not the smartest person in the room, because it's like, we can always learn from somebody. And if we're the only one, we're the smartest person in that room, then who's going to be teaching us?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, obviously we can let God teach us, but we want to try and make sure that we're surrounded by people that are making us better, and we are making them better.
Yeah, that's good. So what do you think's at stake? Like, I think there's something like 850 churches in Orange County, something like close to that.
Yeah.
All different leaders, and the tons of different ministries as well here that have been launched from here. Beautiful ministries. I guess I'm just wondering, you know, if someone like yourself or someone from Standing Stone or anybody doesn't come alongside and create that community or that covering for these leaders, like, what's at stake? Like, what have you seen transpire?
Yeah, I mean, there's churches that are blowing up, splitting, divisive. There's just a lot happening. A lot of churches, the pastors are burning out. And again, like I said, it's like, if you don't show up, who is? It's because they haven't necessarily taken that time to look at themselves and say, who's actually building this church? And do I believe that if I step down for a season of a sabbatical or take some time to rest, is it can continue on? And I think when you get in that mindset, that's where things become destructive. There was a church that I was a part of that had a division, and in that process, people kind of took sides. And I think that's the issue, is like, we're dividing churches, but we're also dividing our understanding of who God is. Because at the end of the day, it's God's church. And so if we're not able to work together, fight together to create something that's beautiful, then I think that's where things fall apart. But back to the point, us coming alongside of other pastors and leaders allow us to help make sure those churches stay healthy, ask the questions they don't want to ask. I was actually talking to a friend of mine where it's more difficult to have people in our life that are challenging us than people that are actually just saying yes. Like I said earlier, like, hey, I could do that, I could do that. But if someone on the other side is saying, like, should I do that? Should you do that? That is going to lead to better and more powerful movements, but also more better conversations and leadership.
Yeah.
So I think what's at stake is churches falling apart, communities, suffering because of that. I mean, there's churches that are helping out with homeless people around here, foster care, a number of different things that we're all pouring into as a community.
There's a lot.
We're all connected to the churches.
Yeah.
So if those churches don't exist anymore, or they're scattered or confused or whatever, then all of those things end up suffering.
Yeah. Gosh, yeah. That's insane to think about that, like how many different movements are started out of the church, that when the church starts crumbling or loses trust with the community, like it really just starts fracturing versus connecting all these.
And back to that leadership idea is like, who's going to lead those?
Yeah.
Right? Because some of those leaders that are leading those movements are in the churches that we're in.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that I don't think people understand about church blow-ups and all that is like, that one pastor may be the highlight of what happened, but like there's 15 other people underneath him that are now like, well, what do we do? Not just like, oh, well, somebody else is going to lead that church. That could happen, but the problem is that they were all hurt and frustrated in the conversations that led up to that moment. So then they start asking themselves, should I be doing this? What did I do? Am I doing things right? Because that's where they start to question their identity and things like that. So I think that's the biggest community issue, is that us coming alongside of these pastors and leaders, there's like you said 800 churches, but there's also all these leaders, executive pastors, associate pastors,
Yeah.
worship leaders, all this that are all part of that as well. So it's, not just 800, it's multiple thousands that are in need of care, but also just like check-ins and making sure there's accountability and all of it.
Dang. So let's as we kind of round the corner here, let's like really, I just want to define this role that you're stepping into and really showcase it. Because when I think about like I'm in the coaching space, there's therapists, right? There's the role we're going to talk about in a minute, but these are all roles that are really designed to be wrapped around leaders.
Yeah.
And I want to hear like how you would talk about this role that you're starting, you're moving in, right? So
Yeah, so a field shepherd is, so I'll tell you the little bit of the history and why it's now what it is, but basically there's a pastor and his wife, Jim and Debbie Hogan, who started the movement in Colorado in their house. And it started from a conversation, hey, there's a pastor that's kind of burning out and needs some time away. So they invited him to come out to their ranch in Colorado just to spend a week. During that time, they realized a couple of things. That one, the pastor and his wife didn't know how to not talk about church. 'Cause, I mean, you're sitting with like church legends, right? You're like, I want to know everything. And they're like, no, we're just going to be here. We're just going to serve you for this week. So that's very humbling. First of all, you're like, I'm the pastor. I'm supposed to be serving, right? Well, now they're serving me.
wow,
So I have to shut down.
feels weird.
Yeah. So it's like, well, what are we supposed to do? Well, let's go fishing, let's play board games, let's eat food together. I mean, it was like a moment where it was a realization that they didn't know how to settle.
Wow.
They didn't know how to just stop.
Oh, that's such a good notice.
So one thing, yeah, huge thing. And then they also realized that other pastors and leaders needed this as well. So fast forward to the point where they got to capacity, they started to realize like, well, we need to do this more often and, with more people. So they reached out to Bob Shank, who's out here, who started the master's program.
Yeah.
And that Jim and Debbie were actually part of that program. So they knew they had a relationship with them. And so they were like, hey, we have this idea. This is what we're doing. We're at capacity. And Bob was like, well, there's other people that have houses, especially here in California.
Yeah, really.
So why don't you train them to do the same thing? And so they did for a while. And then in 2014 is when things really radically changed, which it was like, okay, this is more than a once a year pandemic, where it was like, or epidemic, I don't know I always mess up that word, but it's a problem. And so they said, well, why don't we do train and lead field shepherds? And that's what we are, which is now we can sit with people however long we need to. So it's like, could be every day for a month. It could be once a month. It could be once a week. Just depends on what their needs are and how we can help support them and serve them. And now what we're doing is literally, I just keep bringing this idea up as a friend, because that's what people need. It's just somebody to like ask those hard questions. It's not someone that's like, oh man, I feel you, whatever. It's like, no, like, have you thought about this? And how are you feeling about this? And what did you think about when you brought that, that kind of thing. So it's really asking those hard questions, but in a way where they're feeling supported. So at the same time, it's literally just listening. But sometimes it's like, yeah, maybe we have to ask those questions that are kind of difficult to ask yourself.
Yeah, the word like advocate comes to my mind,
Yeah.
Where it's like, you're not just a friend, you're not just somebody I'm,
buddy with.
Yeah, because sometimes we call that friendship, and it's like, well, I mean, a real a David and Jonathan type friendship relationship that goes deeper than that is one that says some of the hard things, or asks the challenging questions, or like you said, let's slow down a second.
Yeah.
Like, let's review this before we jump into the next leg, right? These are all like great friends.
Yeah. And there are tools like with the ministry, and this is why we chose this ministry, is because it's been around for, like I said, over 20 years. They have created tools that we can use, like a wellness survey. So I can send that to the person that I'm sitting with, and they can go through it, and we can kind of pinpoint what's actually happening right now. I want to come up with just a simple one pager, like, hey, how are you doing? Just a simple check-in. But being able to go through and talk about these things with people, it kind of, it puts down the wall. It breaks down the wall, because it's like, at the end of the day, I don't care about the church. I don't care about the ministry that you're a part of, I really care about you because if you're healthy, then all those things will be healthy as well. And I don't mean I don't care, but you know what I mean? Like I'm focused on the person, not the ministry. So I don't have a bias. And the cool thing is like, I can reach out to people in this community, to, San Diego, LA, like even Zoom people from different country. Like I know other people that are over in missionary countries and they don't have the support they need. Or maybe they have one or two people, but God, man, we need 5, 6 people, so it's being able to be there when people need you.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I just love the journey that God's brought you on as he's like refining and taking you through the fire of actually living the journey that you're inviting others to step into. I've had so much experience as a pastor to then realize like, wow. And I've taken enough diggers and enough failure moments to realize like there's a refining process here going on for you personally, which gives you so much authority to then step into someone else's journey and someone else's life that's in leadership and ministry and be like, hey, can we talk?
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And I think what I'm realizing even in the conversations I'm having with this fundraising is like, it's a bigger, I mean, I knew it was a big problem, but it's a bigger problem than I even knew.
Yeah.
And it's some of the people won't even ask until you ask them. And that's the saddest part or the hardest part is like, there are people that are suffering and they won't ask for help until it's too late. And that's what we're trying to avoid. I'm honestly like focused more on the preventative than the aftermath.
Yeah.
Because I know what I don't know how to describe this, but like God's always shown me what could happen before it happens so that I don't have to go through it. So whether I see it through other people, whether I see it in history or whatever it is, but it's like, I can look at that and go, yeah, it's not for me, and I hope other people will see that before it's too late.
Dang. Just as you were saying that, it was hitting me that God's actually inviting you in this fundraising journey. When you're asking for resource or asking for partnership or asking for help, like there's something really beautiful about you actually having to go through that same thing to then go out into the world and say, can I offer help to you out there? To be in those parallel worlds where you're learning it from like both sides of the coin, or I should say experiencing it from both sides of the coin. It's just wild to see how he works.
Yeah. I mean, that's been a huge challenge for me. I grew up in an Italian Catholic family where I didn't ask for anything. Our family was fine. Like you'd never know what was happening behind the doors.
Yeah.
And because what God's doing over this ministry journey, I've had to ask for people's help and support.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily like them either saying yes or no. It's like God's showing me that people actually care about this. Not just this, but they care about us and want to invest in us. And that's just blowing me away.
Dang. It's so wild, like how God uses the desires of our hearts. Like, I just want to be a shepherd. I just want to be a pastor. And he's just like, and you're like, cool, I'm going to step out.
Yeah.
And then there's these like valleys of shadows of death where you're just like, it ain't going to work, and then as you have conversation and it just starts evolving and you're like, man, people do care about this. People do want to support this. And I would imagine that is incredibly encouraging, like in this journey. I guess just as we wrap here, you're knee deep right in this fundraising journey. And I know you said like we need to get to a full 100% fundraising. You have a number that you're working towards. And as soon as that number happens, you then get full permission to launch out as a field shepherd. And so I just want to say, like, we are rooting for you, and this journey is so beautiful. I can see how it's working on your heart and your family's heart and sharpening just how you hold space for other people. And I'm just so I just get so inspired when I see people jump out and say yes, and then be willing to go through the unknown journey. To me, it's just such a sign of grounded, like just masculine adventure and risk. And so I really am inspired by your journey, man.
Something that I don't think you mentioned, but we talked about a little bit, was that the challenge and the exciting part about it is like, I'm likening it to my tattoos. Everybody literally everybody asked me, did that hurt? Of course it hurt, right?
Yeah.
Of course the process hurts. And some people love that process and that hurt. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I look at the tattoo as like, that's what it's going to look like at the end. And so
Yeah.
that is right now is like literally my picture is like, I know that what we're going through, the sacrifices that we're making right now as our family is going to lead to healthy ministries. It's going to lead to healthy pastors. And this is something my wife and I want to do for a long time. Like I said earlier, like hitting the wall, like we want to continue through that wall into multiple marathons, like down the road, and help other people do the same. So that to me is like the picture that I have is like, I know what it's going to look like. And that's why we're headed to where we're going.
So as we're wrapping and people are just really getting into your story and what this whole Field Shepherd movement is about, I'm just curious, like if they're like, I want to support Patrick or any other Field Shepherd, because maybe there's Field Shepherds in New York that they want to support. I'm just curious, how does someone enter into this in a more dedicated way, in a more partnered way with you and your family and what you're up to?
So the beautiful thing about this is that we get to build our team, like I said earlier, and we get to decide who's on that team because we are going into battle together. And I just get this picture of like holding hands with the people and running. So it's like when I see the 50 to 70 people that are on our list, it's not just people that are, financially supporting us or prayerfully supporting us. These are people we're going to battle with. And if you're sitting in your office right now, like clicking on your computer, like you can be a part of something bigger. And that's what we're inviting people to. So one way to do it is to reach out to me specifically. If you're here locally, like love to grab coffee with you. We could do a Zoom call or whatever to share a little bit more in depth about what we're doing and why we're doing it. But also you can go to the website, standingstoneministry.org, and check out, the multiple field shepherds that are in your area. And I would also say if you are looking for support, because there are people that have been doing this for years and they are already fully supported and they can actually, help right now, go to that website. They have 4 pastors, leaders clicking on the website a day, which is, again, back to this is necessary, this is needed. But they'll connect you to one of the local shepherds or somebody that's more suited to what you do specifically that can help you out.
Oh, I'm so excited about that, man. Yeah. Anything else you want to share before we go?
One thing else I mentioned when we talk about the purpose of why I'm doing this, I was remembering a moment where this is one of those, again, full circle moments with me and God. I was sitting downtown LA. We were helping out with Hillsong LA, and that whole year felt like I was on vacation. Like we had a pool on the rooftop, living next to Skid Row, which was crazy. So I'm sitting in a hot tub next to Skid Row.
Wow.
And this was the time when Philip Seymour Hoffman took his own life.
Oh, wow.
There's a lot of celebrities going through stuff like just drug addiction and, just bad things happening. And I remember asking God, I was like, kind of jokingly, but like, God, I just want to be a professional friend. And I was like, I said half-heartedly, but also like really seriously, like, I just want to be somebody that somebody can come to me without any preconceived notions. I'm not going to share anything with TMZ or any of these other, things, or nothing's going to get out. It's just somebody that you can trust, that you can talk to and go through and process things with before it's too late. I don't want to see another pastor fail miserably. I don't want to see another leader burn out because they're saying yes too much. I don't want to see another celebrity, honestly, take their own life. It's like there are people that you can call, and I want to be one of those people.
So beautiful, man. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah.
Next time we'll have to have coffee then.
Love it.